budget buddies. It's Kim. Welcome to Debt to None, and welcome back if you are returning. Today, this video, we're going to talk about how to create a budget that actually works. I'm talking to the beginners, those that have maybe shied away from building a budget, making a budget because it just didn't work. Maybe they tried in the past and it failed. Let's talk about how to create one that actually works for you. We all know that budgeting is an essential skill to have for a couple of reasons. If you have financial goals that you've been working towards, you're going to need a budget. And if you want to have control over your finances, you feel like things are just out of control, a budget would be wise. But how do we create one that actually works? What do we need to do? Let's go over a couple of things. The first step is you're going to want to know what you're working with. So take a look at your checking account and pay attention to those transactions that are coming in and going out. And that way you know exactly how much income you have for the month and then how much you need to spend to live. Right? So that's the first step. So it's kind of like tracking your expenses, sort of, but not really, because you're going to take a look at past months, like just the prior month. I would suggest taking a couple of months and looking at all those transactions that went in and went out of your account. That way you have a more of a realistic idea of what you deal with on a month-to-month basis. So that's the first step. Okay, so now that you know how much you're working with, how much you need to spend for your expenses, and how much you have coming in, what budgeting system are you going to use? When I looked this up to do the research, it seemed like there were so many out there, and that could be confusing. So which budgeting system is the best one? Well, that's an easy question to answer. The best budgeting system is the one that works best for you in your current circumstances. And I do say current circumstances because we all know that circumstances change from time to time. And I guarantee you, the way you budget is going to change as well. A little tip that I even saw on one of the websites that talked about budgeting is when you take someone else's budgeting method and you try to apply it to your own life, every little detail to your very own life, it's never a perfect fit. And a lot of times it does end up in failure. Well, why is that? Well, obviously, because we're all different. Everyone's life is different. We all have different circumstances, different goals, different values. So what works for you might not work for me, or the chances are it actually won't. So how do you get that perfect fit? Well, first of all, let's go through the budgeting systems. When I was doing research on, okay, which one's the best one, like I said, I saw so many, but then I started to compare one with the other. And you know what I found? Technically, there really isn't a plethora of budgeting systems. Even though if you go ahead and Google it, you're going to come up with several, 5 here, 4 there, 7 there, 9 there. I mean, you're like, what? But I was reading all the details of every single one, and I noticed that this system actually was the same as this system with one minor tweak. And I was like, wait a minute. Okay, you know how all of this probably came about? Because that's just how budgeting is normally. I'll do this method, but then I have to tweak it a little bit to fit my circumstances. Well, as that one gained popularity, it became its own budgeting system. So here's what I'm going to do for you beginners out there. I've taken the three budgeting systems that actually vary for the most part from one to the other. Editing Kim here. Whenever you see me pop on a video and I look completely different, it's one of two reasons. One reason is because I recorded that same topic in a video multiple times. If you haven't heard anything from me in over a week, I've actually recorded several videos. That's a reason. Also,
I've noticed something in the video that needs correcting and then I re-record it. That's what's happening here. This video is several months old and I struggled uploading it because I noticed some mistakes in it and I just decided why not pop in here in editing mode and just correct the mistakes that I noticed. I said these three budgeting methods vary for the most part, one from the other. However, even these three have similarities along the way with, as you go along, there's just a slight tweak at the end. So as I talk about it in this video, you'll be able to see where they all are, well, they're all pretty similar. So you could just decide which one works for you.
Other that you can basically pick one of them and then kind of tweak as you go, because even this system, as I lay it out for you from the research that I've gotten on it, this might not work for you without a couple of adjustments. Okay, so here's where you start. So let's just go through a few, and I'm going to go kind of in a specific order. The first budgeting system that I should talk about is what's called the line item budget. But it's kind of like the no budget. So the line item budget is what I believe is kind of geared towards those that don't really want a detailed budget. Like that's just too much work, too much effort to put into doing this every month or once a year, which I don't know who could budget once a year. I actually saw that on one of the websites. But line item budget is exactly what it sounds like. It's like at that first step that I talked about where you grab your bank statements and you're paying attention to everything going out and coming in, right? So you've got that idea and you basically continue with that. You've got the idea, okay, so I average about this much money for my major expenses and some my wants and things like that. This is the amount of money that goes out of my account every month. I need to stick to that. And so basically, you are just tracking your spending, however you do. You can do it manually with a good old pencil and paper, or you can use a budgeting app. Now, what I saw in my research for the line item budget, you're not really saying, okay, this is how much I want to go to savings. This is how much I want to go to debt. You're basically kind of just keeping up with what you're doing. And the reason why you're doing this is because you never want to overdraft your account. I mean, nobody wants to do that. But then,
So even though that's what one of the articles said on the internet, that the line item budget doesn't account for any funds that you want to throw towards debt or savings, well, you can always add that in. Actually, that's what I do. I pretty much do a line item budget when I'm doing my budget, and I definitely account for debt payments as well as savings. So you could do the same.
that. But then there's the no budget. Is there a better name for that? The budgetless budget? Okay, I have no idea. But literally, this is out there, the no budget. Well, it's basically the line item budget, and that name no budgets is a bit misleading because even the no budget has a budget. Because what I found is that you decided how much you're going to put towards your savings, whatever it is, retirement, long-term, short-term savings, whatever it is. You've already decided how much you're going to put towards that every month. And you've decided how much you're going to put towards debt if you have that. And then it's on automatic transfer out of your bank account. So you treat them like bills. Here's your expenses. All this is the amount for my utilities, this is for my housing, this is for my subscriptions, groceries, blah, 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 and so on. You made this list, and this is the amount for debt, this is the amount for savings. And you know the dates of when these transactions go out, you're keeping track. And then whatever is left over from all of your bills being paid, all of your expenses that you spend throughout the month, whatever's left over, you can just spend it however you want. And of course, like I said a little bit earlier, you are being very careful not to spend more than you have. You never want to overdraft your account. That's the no budget system. I mean, that works for some people. So I don't know. It feels a little bit more free to do it that way. So that's an option. It's easy, so beginners can definitely do it. That's all we're going to talk about today is what's recommended for beginners. The only thing about the line item and the no budget, because they're very similar, so close, I put them on the same line. The only thing about that way of budgeting is if you're a beginner, maybe you don't have that discipline yet to not overdraft your account. A lot of times people need a budget. They realize they need a budget because their spending has gotten out of control. Maybe they've racked up debt. I mean, and now it's like a help, like an SOS. I need a budget, right? So you might not want to do that. But if I'm going to be completely honest, that's pretty much where I started. Pretty much. So next we have the proportional formula budget method. And this is super popular. The most popular one has to be the 50-30-20 rule. And it's exactly what it sounds like, proportional formula budget. So you're going to take 100% of your income and you're going to proportion it to 3 different categories. So 50% of it's going to go to your needs. 30% of it's going to go to your wants. 20% of it is going to go to savings or debt or both, depending on what you're working with. Many experts say that that's a good place to start when you begin budgeting, because you're getting control of your finances and you've allocated, okay, I can only spend this much of my income for this and this and this. And it's giving you a measure of control. I have read in my research that many have found that like 50% for their needs isn't high enough, or 30% for wants is too high or too low. And you get it. So the reason why I'm covering this all across the board, because if you go and look it up on the internet, you're going to see other proportions out there, 70-20-10, 60-40, there's a lot because things have been tweaked to fit this person, that has come up with this new system. But I'm like, what? It goes under one umbrella. You're splitting up your income in a certain percentage and you're allocating it for specific categories that are necessary to you. Proportional formula budget system. That's a mouthful. And so, of course, if you're going to start there, you're going to want to tweak it to what fits best for you. So you might try it 50-30-20 at first, the first month, and then you notice, wait, no, this is too high, this is too low, and then you start tweaking it. But the whole point is to get control of your finances. So that's what you're doing. That's what you're doing by having this budgeting system implemented in your life. If you do the research online or books or whatever, and you see the pay yourself first method, the reason why I didn't include it is because it's not an actual budget. It's just the order of of what you're doing, paying your monthly expenses. You're going to pay yourself first. Experts recommend that you start off with allocating 20% of your income to savings. Well, that sounds very similar to that 50-30-20 formula. So if you're using the pay yourself first method, well, you just make sure that you do that first. And then you get to the 50% and the 30%.
The pay yourself first method prioritizes goal-based saving categories. So in their like long term. So like your investments, your retirement fund, whatever that is. I guess it could be like your home if you're going to purchase a house or whatever, and that's like some years out. You want to pay yourself first, so you allocate the funds towards those goals first. out of your income. And then whatever's left is what is sent to your expenses, your everything that's short term, your regular monthly expenses. I think that's, I mean, makes sense to me. And so I probably will institute that like into my budget the way I've been doing things. And then I'm going to just switch gears and really focus on me.
And so, lastly, and again, very, very popular and very much beginner friendly is the zero based budget. A lot of people recommend that you start there. So, the zero based budget system is where you make sure that your exact amount of income that's coming in for the month is exactly what's going out. Now, you're not spending everything you have, you've just allocated everything you have. Popular saying with that method is give every dollar a job, right? So this includes all your expenses as well as all of your savings, debt payments, everything. Every dollar has an assignment. And I have to say, in my research, I found that everyone said that this budgeting system is like the most hands-on. Maybe some beginners would shy away from doing it if they don't like budgeting because there's so much detail involved. But at the same time, if you're having a problem with your spending and everything's out of control, then maybe the more control you have over your finances is like the better for you. So, you start at step one, like we've already discussed, and mapping out exactly what you need to spend for expenses, your wants, your savings, your debt, everything. And then you literally will write it out. Okay, this is how much is going to go out for this. This is how much is going to go out for that. And then as you're writing it down, you're deducting from that total sum of your income, subtract, subtract, subtract. By the time you've assigned every single category, you should end up at zero. And there you have your zero based budget. Here's what I found. Here's what I found that's so interesting. Like I said, you go on the internet, you're going to see a lot of information. It'll say the cash envelope budget. But you also want to decide whether you're going to be a cash budgeter or a digital budgeter or a mixture of both. And so cash budgeters tend to use the cash envelope method. Why? Well, because that's super, super organized. You could be a cash budgeter and not use the cash envelope method. That's fine. You could kind of be like me and have like your app and you see, okay, I've allocated this amount for this amount for that, but you better keep track of exactly what you're spending, because if it's not in your site and you've spent $50 and you're dining out and that's all you allocated, if you hadn't wrote that down somewhere or put that in an app somewhere that you spent $50 out of your dining out and you don't have an envelope that shows that your envelope is empty, well, you a hot mess. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you're not a hot mess, but you get it. So that's why the cash envelope method goes hand in hand with the zero-based budget or any budget. I mean, you could do the 50-30-20 budgeting system and use the cash envelope method as well. Yeah, you could do that. And, then you've got 3 envelopes, or you could be a digital budgeter and use the 50-30-20 budgeting system or some sort of proportional formula, whatever works for you. So in the end, what budgeting system is the best? Whichever one works best for you in your current circumstances. Yes. As you continue to grow as a budgeter, you're going to be tweaking. You're going to be just maneuvering and twisting until you've got this beautiful system that is completely personalized to you specifically. It's such a perfect fit and it works for a period of time until your life changes somehow.
Thank you so much for taking the time to hang out with me and watch this video, which I know it's a little different from what I typically do. I did want to do something for those that are beginning. I do have friends that talk to me kind of on a day-to-day basis about budgeting and how they don't really know how to do it and they want to get out of debt and things like that. So I know that those people are out there. So I wanted to kind of put something together that was, a little bit for the novices. And not that I am a pro by any means, but I have a little bit of experience now and I've kind of dabbled around with different things and I have an idea of what's what, a little bit of an idea. So I'm just sharing what I've learned along the way. I appreciate you being here with me for sure. I'd love for you to subscribe. Don't want to twist your arm at all. It doesn't cost you anything. It helps out my channel. And I mean, why not help out somebody? That's what we like to do, right? Kindness is a very valuable quality. So I hope you guys are having an excellent start to your month. Mine's not so bad, a little bit stricter than normal, but that's okay. We know how to roll with the punches. So with that, I hope that I see you next time.